On today's episode, we preview game one of the first round of the playoff series between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Toronto Maple Leafs. All that and more. But first, let's play that music.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to another episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Denker. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. On today's episode, if you don't know by now, and in case you've been living underneath a rock, the Lightning will play game one of their first round matchup against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I feel like this has just been something we've been looking forward to all year long. Yeah, the regular season is great, but at the same time, this is the end goal here with getting that third straight cup. Before we get into all that, I would like to thank everybody for your continued support of the show over this past season. And thank you to everybody who met up on Friday against the Islanders up in the UBS Arena on Long Island. It was great meeting and talking to all of you. So thank you for doing that, and looking forward to doing that more often in upcoming games next season. So on today's episode, once again, we are talking about the matchup against Toronto Maple Leafs. And I have to say, first of all, I mean, I've been talking about it for weeks. Really what it comes down to is that this was a matchup that the Lightning, if they didn't think about it, which I'm sure they did, they should have wanted. Because really what you're doing is, and yes, the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially with Austin Matthews thrown into the equation, are a very dangerous team. Having said that, the Lightning have run into their fair share of dangerous teams over these last two cup runs, so it's nothing that they can't handle. And like I've said on past episodes, whether it be this year or last season or the season before, excuse me, is that playoff hockey is a lot different than regular season hockey. You're not taking as many chances. You see teams kind of turn it into somewhat of a chess match, and that's why the teams who are built for the playoffs, you'll see who those teams are. That's why we've seen teams like the New York Islanders the last couple of years, obviously the Tampa Bay Lightning the last couple of years, Dallas, a team who's back in the fold this year, who made a cup run a couple of years ago. That's why those teams like that are, you see them kind of go a little further on each year. So really that is going to be the key. And really we're gonna see going forward, whether it be the Tampa Bay Lightning or teams in the Eastern Conference, especially, which one of those teams, if the Lightning do make it past Toronto, which I firmly believe they will, uh, which of those teams can handle the pressure and the game by game grind. Because really a lot of these games, and it's not just the fans, where when we watch it, it feels like game 7. It feels like a do or die game. And I'm sure that game, that mentality is carried on by the players as well. So talking about this playoff series with the Maple Leafs, the Maple Leafs are favored, but that's just pre-series odds there. So I wouldn't worry about that. If you're making, that's all it does for you is it gives you a better payout if you put money down on the Lightning. So really, it's funny because if you look at this series, and the thing that really sticks out to me, kind of reading around, and it's at the same time kind of not really much of a surprise, is that yes, the Lightning are obviously going for a third straight cup. It's no secret. So there is some sort of level of pressure to this playoff run. Maybe I would have to say the one a couple of years ago, where the Lightning were in the bubble, and maybe the pressure was kind of taken away. But given everything that happened after 2019, there was a fair amount of pressure on this team to not only go further into the playoffs, but actually win a cup, which they, of course, did. But in this playoff series, I think if you look at both teams and just all the expectations around them. I think really for the most part, do we expect this Lightning team to go further, all the way back at least to the Eastern Conference Finals, which I actually predicted that they would do this season. Yes, of course, that is the expectation. And then once you get into the final, there you're playing with house money at that point. But I don't think, and I'm not saying like let's not be upset to a certain degree if this team does lose this series. But I would have to imagine, especially me, and I'm sure a lot of fans out there, if the Lightning were to fall in this series, it wouldn't exactly be surprising, just given the toll that has the toll that has been on this team for the last couple of years with these long playoff runs and all that. So really, this team's wiped out. I mean, except for a couple of players who came in during the trade deadline, obviously Hagel and Nick Paul, and then you have Riley Nash coming up from Syracuse as well. And then you have Pierre-Edouard Bellemare and Bogosian coming back from Toronto in the offseason. As you know, a majority of these players uh, were on the team last year. So, you know, guys are tired, guys are fatigued. You don't really have that much of a off season. Really, you know, you really have only about 2 months to recover in the off season. Then, given everything with last year's frequency, I think that of the schedule, I think that added a little bit of an extra toll and a little wear and tear to some of these guys. But this playoff series, I think that the Lightning are really their worst own enemy because if you look at it, the Toronto Maple Leafs are the team that are expected to win. There's a whole ton of pressure. If they were to lose to the Lightning in the first round, this would be the sixth consecutive year that they have lost in the first round of the playoffs. And if that were to happen, I mean the backlash and the after effects of this would be astronomical. We're talking about possibly everybody getting shipped out or just changes from top to bottom to where we might look at this team next year and not recognize it. Not recognize it. You might have about, I would say, if I had to pick three players from this team that if they do lose, three players from this Toronto team that would still be around next year. It'd probably be Matthews, Marner, and Nylander. So you know, it's one of those things where we're lucky that the Lightning aren't in a situation. They were in a situation like that a couple of years ago. Like I said, if they would have not succeeded in 2020, we might be sitting here a year later discussing um, a lot of the changes that would have happened to this team. But you know, if it, looking at this matchup before we get into the break, real quick, the thing that really sticks out to me, and we'll talk about it more as right after the break, is the goalie matchup. I think that Campbell has really just been super shaky this year. One night he comes out, he looks like a Vezina contender. The other night he looks like an emergency goalie. So we don't know what we're going to get out of him this series. That's why it's all that more important that the Lightning jump on him early in these games. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, I want to talk about one of today's sponsors, and then we'll take a break. And that is betonline.net. Betonline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you're staying right here. If you're listening to us on an audio platform, you're coming back right now. And that is a good time as any to thank all of you for listening to us as well as watching us. We've slowly been surely building up our YouTube channel, as we said. So go ahead and subscribe to that. Give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment below on how you think this series will go between the Lightning and the Tampa Bay. I mean, excuse me, the Lightning and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And go ahead and like and subscribe to the pod. Give us a follow wherever podcasts are distributed. I mean, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, wherever they are distributing podcasts, we are there. And give us a follow on our social media pages at LO_Lightning. as well as locked_on_lightning on Instagram. So go ahead and do that. So kind of coming back to what I kind of led off with, you kind of figured if you've been a listener or a watcher or whatever, a viewer, I guess we could call you that, of this pod, you know where I'm going with this. I've been talking about it probably endlessly the last couple of seasons. I mean, you would figure at this point, if I were saying this, that the Lightning wouldn't be as successful as they are. Obviously, this is mainly a problem that I have an issue with during the regular season. As for the playoffs, like I've said, that the game is just played differently, so I don't have as big of an issue with it. Uh, Playoff games are more like chess matches. Um, but I think it's as important as any in this playoff series for the Lightning to get out in front of Toronto, just overwhelm Jason Campbell, and then on the other side of that, so we saw them do a very good job of that in that last game of the season, Game 82 up in New York. By the way, I didn't mention it, but Stamkos's hat trick was in our end, which was pretty cool. Never saw a hat trick in person before. Probably one of the most unenthusiastic hat tricks that you would ever see in person. You know, you figure even though there was, and I'm not throwing shade at any of the Lightning fans there, but the fact that I think there was maybe one or two hats thrown on the ice was funny to see that. So, but uh, the one thing that was good, kind of just taking a quick step back and looking at that game and see how that might carry over. The thing that really impressed me in that game, other than the Lightning's attack, uh, was Vasilevsky being able to weather the storm. Uh, I thought there was a couple of times there where the Lightning failed to clear the puck out, and I actually said it to a Lightning fan that was sitting in front of me. We were talking back and forth during the game. There was one sequence in the Lightning's end, I believe it was in, I want to say, the first period, where you almost thought that the Lightning were on the PK. And that was a little concerning, but in times like that, you're going to need your goaltender to kind of bail you out. And Vasilevsky did a fantastic job of that. So, uh, glad to see he's kind of starting to get going. Hopefully, he could carry over that performance into tonight's game. Um, But yeah, I really like what I saw from that team. Obviously, the Islanders are, they're not exactly a very good team, but at the same time, I've said before, they are built for the playoffs. They are the kind of team that if they just snuck in, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw them go back to the Eastern Conference finals. But yeah, how that relates to this series, I think as long as the Lightning uh, continue to show that same kind of aggressiveness towards attacking the net, as well as being able to control the puck in the neutral zone, I think they'll be fine. And one of their biggest issues that I've continued to see from them is allowing opposing teams to set up and kind of just take control of that high danger area down low in front of Vasilevsky, and they need to do a better job of that. That was something that was a little concerning to where if they were having an issue with Columbus doing that and New York doing that, then especially with a guy like Austin Matthews, who kind of can has the ability to do a lot of things, especially sit down there and clean up some of the garbage on rebounds. You definitely got to worry about that. So hopefully they have a game plan for that. I would assume they do. I wouldn't be shocked if they've been kind of working on that here and there in the coming weeks, as well as of course over the weekend. So yeah, and as for other things that are kind of just poking out to me, well, uh, I think that the Lightning really need to they just need to be able to go out there and play different facets of their games on the drop of a dime. I think that as much as I like seeing them kind of turn games into track races because that's where they thrive. And we've seen when especially when Braden Point's out there, when Nikita Kucherov's out there, They're one of the most fastest, most dangerous teams on the break. Having said that, given that the rest of the league now has kind of caught up to them in that regard, I think you kind of need to change things up. Is they are dangerous, but when you're continuously doing that, not only are you kind of starting to accidentally give the other team um, a little bit of momentum, just because after a couple of big stops like that, eventually teams will be able to build off of that. And that's the one thing you don't want, especially a team like Toronto, because the Lightning could go up and down the ice 3, 4 times, and then Toronto could score 2 quick goals like that. They're the kind of team that is capable of doing that. Lightning uh, skate into the zone, have a turnover at the blue line, and then it's off to the races. And then before you know it, Lightning are down 2-0. So that's definitely not something that you want to get into. I think that, and I was talking to Micah, one of the listeners that we were meeting up with, and I was telling him, a lot of people don't realize that Tampa is one of the best teams in the league when all they have to do is set up in the zone, cycle the puck around, get it to either Kucherov or Stamkos down low, or allow Hedman or McDonough up top to be able to slap one from the blue line. So really, you have a ton of weapons at your disposal, and it's kind of upsetting sometimes. And when I say upsetting, I mean more so frustrating. It's more so frustrating when they don't use those accordingly. So we'll wrap things up, talk about predictions for the series in just a bit. I want to talk about our last sponsor of the day, and that is Built Bar. Now, summer is coming, in case you haven't noticed. If you live up by me, in New York. One day it's 80 degrees, and the next day it's about I want to say 40, 50 degrees. So up and down here. Excuse me. My voice is all over the place today. And with summer, you're going to need some food on the go. Built bars are the perfect snack to take with you on family vacations. Throw them in your bags, in your kids' backpacks. Make sure that everyone has bars so you're fueled up for summer adventures. And the best part about Built Bar is that they're healthy and delicious, and no more sacrificing delicious food for health. With Built Bar, you can have both, and it's easy. And all you have to do is go to built.com and order now. All Built Bars and Puffs are covered in 100% real chocolate. That means with Built Bar, you can eat healthy and actually enjoy doing it. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar that usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Go to Built.com. Get all your favorites: banana cream pie, raspberry, double chocolate, and so many more flavors at your disposal. They are all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. Check them out at Built.com. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your order when you use that promo code LOCK15 at Built.com. So once again, if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for making us your first listen or first watch of the day. And you're staying right here, as well as if you're on an audio platform, you're joining us back right now. And thank you once again for making us your first listen of the day. Joining us here for playoff preview, Tampa Bay Lightning. I can't believe how fast the regular season went. I I've spoken about it numerous times, and that was why we needed the Lightning. The Lightning needed to get things going on their end, play wise, and we've seen that here and there. We've seen spurts the last couple weeks as well, where they not only look like a playoff team, but they look like the best team in the league. The way they handled the Maple Leafs a couple of weeks ago, the way they handled the Panthers. The way they took care of business against the Predators, the way they battled back against the Islanders in the last game of the season. This team is good, and it's all that more frustrating as to when they actually underperform. So, predictions for this series, I think we're going to see a lot of wacky things happen. I think I wouldn't be surprised if tonight's game is going to be a little bit high scoring. When I say that, I would say probably around a 5-4 game, so expect 9-10 goals here and there. And then I think game 2 is going to be a little bit reeled in. I think we're going to see about a 3-2, 4-2 kind of game. and then that's kind of going to be the same thing going forward. We might get another high scoring at some point, depending on what the series is looking like. I would expect, and actually, I don't really have any expectations in terms of what we're looking at. I mean, obviously, I expect the Lightning to win, but really, what I'm saying is that what the Lightning really need to do, as long as you go back to Amalie with the series at least tied, I don't have a problem with it. I really don't. I think that's the goal for everybody involved. So really, you go back to Amalie with the series tied, you win two, and you're rolling. You're rolling into Game 5 up in Toronto. Uh, ready to close things out. Um, the key for the Lightning, obviously, in this series, and what I would like out of them at least in our bracket that we posted to Instagram and Twitter. If you haven't checked that out, go ahead and check that out. LO_Lightning on Twitter, as well as Locked_On_Lightning on Instagram. I picked the Lightning to win in 6. I would prefer that they win in 5, just so they could get some extra rest, because I know a lot of these Eastern Conference playoff series are going to be very long. 6-7 games is probably going to be the norm. Uh, if you look at some of the other series that we had going forward, with the Lightning eventually going to the Stanley Cup Finals, we had them playing Colorado. I think the key for a lot of these teams that the Lightning will be facing, especially Toronto, is that they'll have to get the series over with as soon as possible against the Lightning, because the Lightning, the one thing that makes them dangerous is the amount of experience that they have. And when you keep it when you keep a team like the Lightning around for as long in a series, you don't want to go to a 6 or even a 7, because all bets are off. You don't want to keep a team like that around. So I think that even if the Lightning go back to Toronto and it's a must-win game, I wouldn't be worried as long as they get by. As long as they can extend the series, all you're doing is adding more uh, motivation, more fuel to the fire, and more momentum to this team, who we've seen what they could do in tight knit pressure situations. So I think at the same time, as much as I want them to eh, get a series over with, I wouldn't be all that upset if we're sitting here on May 14th talking about Game 7. Preferably, I would like to see them end the series Game 6 at Amalie, so they kind of get a little extra rest, so they don't have to travel after the game, so they can just go straight into their beds in Tampa and just relax and wait for the next playoff series to conclude. So please go ahead and reach out to the show or drop a comment underneath our social media posts, LO_Lightning on Twitter, as well as Locked_Lightning on Instagram. Let us know how this series will end, or how it will turn out, how many games it'll go. We'd love to hear from all of you as well with that. So yeah, I would expect probably a 5-4 game tonight. Uh, those kind of games, the Lightning usually come out on top. So I will say tonight's prediction for Game 1 against the Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto: 5-4 win against the Maple Leafs. Vazzy comes up with a huge couple of big saves at the end of the game to lock things down. Expect goals from Kucherov and Kucherov and Stamkos. Stamkos has absolutely been rolling the last couple of weeks, and capped off his amazing, I guess I would say, rejuvenation of a season by scoring a hat trick. Fantastic game from him the other night. Just a fantastic game all around from these guys, and great to see that everyone's ready to roll. So go ahead and follow the pod as well, because we will be posting an episode later tonight, early tomorrow morning. So that would probably be around 1-ish. We're going to try and put out 2 episodes every game day. So keep an eye out for that, just so you have that extra coverage as well. So in the meantime, that's been it for this episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Denker. I'll talk to you in the next one.